Last week, Hurricane Harvey came in from the Gulf Coast, built up to a Category 4, and smashed into the Texas coast near Corpus Christi, and actually wound up lingering for a while, then moved on. It turned into a tropical storm and wound up raging through southeast Texas, and wound up causing massive flooding in many areas of southeast Texas and even into Louisiana. It's still going on as a tropical storm as we speak. The damage from the hurricane has been immense. It's just caused untold levels of destruction. The event is still ongoing. Rescue procedures are still ongoing. We're not sure the extent that the damage is going to be, the extent to which the damage is going to be. But what we know so far is enough to tell us that it is definitely a serious event, a very serious event. It is actually record-breaking in some cases, and it's just incredible the amount of destruction, for sure. There has been some wild reports of things like people actually fishing in their own house because the floodwater contains fish, and they've actually been able to fish them out of their own homes. We've actually had some videos of stuff like this, so let's go ahead and roll one of those.
Está en la esquina. Ahí va. Ya lo... Oh my God!
Some Texas law enforcement also saw fit to put up warnings that there may actually be alligators roaming around in the streets because they are seeking higher water. So just a illustration of the madness that has ensued, because of this tragedy, because of this hurricane. And this article here really sort of sums up some of the key numbers about Hurricane Harvey and about just how destructive and how immense and widespread the damage that is brought is on the people of Texas and Louisiana. And this is from USA Today. Charting Hurricane Harvey's jaw-dropping size and destruction. So far, it has caused over may cause up to $190 billion in damage, which would make it worse than Katrina. It would make it the worst hurricane disaster in the United States history. It has brought on 51.9 inches of rain, and I believe that something like 20 inches of that rain actually came within the first 24 hours. So just to show you how just absolutely massive the amount of rainfall as a result of this hurricane was, now tropical storm. 19 trillion gallons of water have been dumped over southeast Texas and 5.5 trillion gallons over Louisiana. Just an immense, just mind-boggling amount of water to be dumped in an area that size. Just absolutely insane. 132 mile-per-hour winds were a part of this hurricane. 132 mile-an-hour winds, and this was actually the first Category 3 or bigger in Texas history in the last 56 years. As you can see here from this illustration, there is just massive, just absolutely incredible levels of flooding in southeast Texas and Louisiana. About 100,000 homes were damaged by Hurricane Harvey, according to President Trump's Homeland Security Advisor, Tom Bossert. And a big problem with that is that thousands and thousands of people, a majority of the people who are going to have property damage and their houses completely destroyed in some cases because of this hurricane, are actually, unfortunately, uninsured, as you can see from this illustration. 9,400 flights to and from Houston have been canceled. Harvey, now a tropical storm, is headed northeast into Kentucky, by Saturday morning. So as you can see here, the path of destruction still continues from Hurricane Harvey, now Tropical Storm Harvey, and it looks like it's going to continue on into Kentucky, possibly reaching Kentucky by Saturday morning. Gas stations may run out this weekend, and this it illustrates how this is not just a disaster for Texas. This is not just a disaster, for people in the areas of the South that are going to be affected by this. This is something that is going to have a nationwide effect, because if for no other reason, Texas is an area where a lot of oil comes from, and it's an area that does export a lot of oil, and a lot of states, in the United States, get their oil in many cases from Texas, and this is going to definitely cause a big problem with that sort of flow of commerce. So this is from the Washington Examiner. Major gas line pipeline that supplies D.C., New York to shut down. The Colonial Pipeline that supplies gasoline, jet, and diesel fuel from the Gulf Coast all the way north to Washington, D.C. will soon be shut down in the Gulf. 10 gallons per day of refined fuels from Gulf Coast refiners to markets in the southeast and up north to the mid-Atlantic states, all the way to Washington and New York City. So obviously you're going to have a serious hamper of the actual flow of commerce, because of this event, and what you're going to have be the obvious result of this is going to be rising gas prices, and there are some estimates that gas prices may actually rise up to $1. So obviously that would, and that's the thing, gas prices, when gas prices go up, that affects everything, because when you're talking about the price of gas, you're talking about the price of transportation, which is the price of transporting anything. That means goods, that means services, that means obviously people being able to transport themselves personally. So it's something that really affects the economy deeply. And if you had, gas prices go up by $1, or even 50 cents, that's something that is definitely going to harm the economy. So, that is definitely something that people should be looking forward to, or not looking forward to, but prepared for in the wake of this disaster. So clearly this is an epic, disaster. This is, this flooding event is actually, I believe, going to be overall the record-breaking flood event in United States history. I believe as far as rainfall, the 51.9 inches, as incredible as that was, I think Hawaii in 1950 or somewhere in that time actually wound up getting more rainfall than that. So it doesn't beat that specific category, but overall as a flooding event, it is definitely as a hurricane and a flooding event going to be one of the, if not the worst natural disaster in United States history. So it's definitely, an epic level disaster. And, of course, in an event like this, you're going to have casualties. Unfortunately, you're going to have, lives that are lost. You're going to have lives that are ruined. So far, there is over 30 deaths. We're not sure how much more that's going to increase, how many more people are going to have their lives lost or lives devastated from this event, and there's a reason for that, and this CNN article illustrates why we don't know Harvey's true toll, why we don't yet know Harvey's true toll, rather. On Thursday, 6 days after the storm made landfall, the Houston Fire Department was set to begin a door-to-door mission in southwest Houston in hopes of finding residents still waiting to be plucked from the floodwaters. Lieutenant General Russell Honore, I probably butchered that 3 times in a row, who oversaw relief efforts operations in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, said that officials won't know the true scale of the disaster until that door-to-door search is complete. Honore said that it was during those searches after Katrina that authorities in New Orleans, quote, really found the bad news. Houston police had responded to more than 5,000 water rescue requests by Wednesday afternoon, Police Chief Art Acevedo said. More than 10,000 people have been saved by federal rescue teams, FEMA Director Brock Long said. And those totals don't include the unknown numbers saved by volunteer groups and neighbors. So you've obviously had thousands and thousands of people that have been saved by, federal, state, and local government groups, and you've also had untold numbers of people obviously saved by different volunteer groups and just, local communities coming together. But it really has been an amazing effort of people coming together and really helping each other out. Something you don't necessarily see illustrated a whole lot in the media. They're busy trying to find an angle to undermine President Trump in this whole situation as usual, and we'll get to that. But, so basically, the death toll is going to continue to rise because they're still in the process of, dealing with the situation. They haven't been able to fully assess, the damage. They haven't been able to fully assess the fallout from the situation. And, clearly they're still doing door-to-door searches. The 911 systems have been completely, overloaded. They've got something like, they've had 60 or 70,000, different calls. And they've just been doing what what they can to try to deal with those in an efficient and timely manner, and they're also trying to, of course, deal with the most urgent situations first, and it's been overwhelming, obviously. So there's just gonna be, over time, we're going to learn more and more about how many people have been affected by this, and unfortunately, of course, every single person that, winds up dying or having their life destroyed by this horrible event, it's a tragedy. It has, an absolutely heart-wrenching tragedy. But again, it's very inspiring to see people coming together and really helping out their fellow man, and that is something that you have absolutely seen. Whether it's people in, again, federal, state, or local, government, or just communities coming together and helping themselves. There has been countless stories of, people of all different, races, colors, creed, religion, it doesn't matter, all coming together as human beings, to help each other in obviously a disastrous and very sad event. And you've got, one picture that somebody tweeted was, very indicative of this, and it was a line of people. You would think, maybe, is this line of people there to get food? Are they there, to be helped in some way? No, they were actually a line of people, a massive line of people, waiting to help other people. Waiting in line to actually be part of the relief effort to help other people. So you've just seen people across the board, really come forward and, really make an effort to not only help out their own community, but you've also seen, there's been reports of countless people coming in from out of state, different boaters coming in and, actually, using their boats to literally go out and rescue people. So it's very, very inspirational. It really shows the true American spirit really shining through. But of course, the media, they can't just take a moment to sort of try to be uniting. They can't take a moment, a disastrous moment in American history to actually try to unite people and actually be a positive force. No, they would rather just try to undermine the president in any way that they possibly can, even at a time like this. So, The problem for the media is that the federal response has been quite good. And this is evident by the fact that the Texas officials have come out and overwhelmingly said that the federal response is great, that President Trump's response himself is great, and that they've gotten everything that they need. They've got everything that they've asked for, and of course it doesn't stop the media, but it's pretty clear that President Trump and the federal response has actually been very swift and very effective. And here is former Navy SEAL Carl Higbee on Fox absolutely ripping the media for their coverage. Let's play that.
President Trump authorized almost unprecedented funding and resources right out the gate. You think he doesn't have empathy for this? President Trump sent 63,000 families immediate aid through FEMA. Right now we have, 100+ military aircraft down there. We have 500 medical professionals. We have 1,000+ AmeriCorps members, 30,000 National Guard, 50,000 general. What else do you want? I mean, at this point, we're the people down here, including AmeriCorps, FEMA, who's been fantastic, Governor Abbott, nobody has drawn any political lines on this. We're there to get the job done. We're there to save lives, get people out of their flooded homes. And you talk about him not showing empathy. President Trump is wholly invested in this operation, and it's disgusting to see media politicizing this because they don't like the current president.
So that was a good, well-deserved thrashing laid out on the mainstream media for their coverage of this event and for their attempts to sort of undermine President Trump and the federal effort and President Trump's involvement personally. And now let's play a video of Governor Abbott, the governor of Texas, coming out and saying what he feels like the federal response has been.
Governor,
Sure.
It's obviously still a work in progress, and this is an ongoing situation, but so far, how would you grade the government response?
Well, the state of Texas has been dealing with the federal government for about 7 to 10 days at least before the hurricane hit, on a daily basis, frequently multiple times during the day. I've spoken with the president on multiple occasions, with his cabinet members ranging from the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, Transportation, Energy. I'm leaving some out, but also the FEMA administrator. And I would have to grade the federal government's response as an A+. This is, if not the largest, has to be categorized as one of the largest disasters America has ever faced. And to see the swift response from the federal government is pretty much unparalleled. And so we are grateful for what's happened so far, but we know we're still early in the process. We need to maintain this. But a second component of it is the way that leaders at the local level have responded. These are people who are living off of just a few hours of sleep a night, and they have one concern, and that is for the men and women they represent in their towns and counties, and is because of their commitment to the people they represent that coupled with the federal government's response that we are doing as well as we are.
So it doesn't get much more clear than that. The federal response is an A+, according to Governor Abbott. Again, they have been in touch with the president. They have been in touch with the federal government. The federal government has been absolutely responsive. They have basically done everything that the state has asked for. And one thing that's important and different than sort of the reaction to Katrina when George Bush was president, is that instead of it being a top-down system where you've got the federal government coming in, and with Katrina they were actually blocking many sort of local community efforts and charitable efforts to help people, and it wound up being a problem and almost certainly led to more chaos, more destruction, and more death than was absolutely necessary. And the federal involvement literally was a roadblock to an effective response to that disaster. And now what you've got is the federal government working with and alongside the state and local, officials and the community itself, sort of from a bottom down or a bottom up rather type of a system, which is really the way that it should be handled. And the fact that this is working is pretty clear. It's pretty evident. Obviously this is a disaster situation. You're going to have casualties. You're going to have destruction. But really, there haven't been any major missteps that the media can point to really try to attack Trump in any kind of a meaningful way on this situation. But again, that does not stop them from trying. Now, there is one controversy about this, about the government's response, but not Trump's response. Now, the controversy is that the mayor of Houston, before Hurricane Harvey made landfall, basically downplayed the severity of the incident and told people that they should try to actually ride out the storm. Well, it turns out that was some pretty bad advice. But it's unclear, to be fair, whether or not that response was at least semi-appropriate in some ways, and I'll explain that here in a minute. But first, I want to go to this article from AP that really illustrates this situation, because it sort of created opposition between the mayor, the Houston mayor, and the governor, Governor Abbott. Harvey tests political opposites in Texas's Abbott Turner. Abbott, uncharacteristically, seized the spotlight last week as Harvey was nearing his state's Gulf Coast. He said Houston residents, quote, should strongly consider evacuating, even if not told to do so by local officials. Quote, you have the power and the ability to avoid being stuck into a search and rescue situation. So that was the governor saying this. Turner and Republican Harris County Judge, too late, and millions of people clogged highways at once, snarling traffic and contributing to 100+ deaths. Quote, there is no need at this point for people to be thinking about leaving, getting on the road, putting themselves in, and millions of people clogged highways at once, snarling traffic and contributing to 100+ deaths. Quote, there is no need at this point for people to be thinking about leaving, getting on the road, putting themselves in greater danger, Turner said. Added Emmett, whose county encompasses Houston. We are not talking about a hurricane in Houston. We are talking about a rain event. A rain event, he says. Yes, 51.9 inches, or 51.9 inches of rain. Yeah, that's quite a rain event, I would say. And if anybody is questioning that Houston suffered a little bit more than a rain event, let me bring your attention to this one little video that shows people boating right around the Interstate 10, I believe, in Texas, as it is completely underwater. Let's roll that clip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking about just amazing, amazing footage there. That's just incredible. I mean, it literally looks like a scene out of, Waterworld or something like that. I mean, it's just literally straight out of a disaster, apocalypse movie. I mean, it is just absolutely insane. The level of flooding that has gone on in southeast Texas and Louisiana is truly, truly incredible. And depending on people's the elevation in relation to sea level, some areas are underwater by 5 feet or more. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. Some areas, much more underwater. Again, just depending on the elevation in relation to sea level. But obviously, without saying, it is a massive event. The idea that it was just going to be a rain event, quote unquote, it was pretty clearly underplayed. Their rationale that Hurricane Rita, when that happened, that there was an evacuation notice too late, and that it flooded the highways. Yes, obviously you don't want flooded highways. That could create a situation potentially, I mean, even worse than what it would have been naturally. But I think it's pretty clear that people that were at least going to be in the potential high water areas should have been notified, or at least encouraged by their government to potentially, go somewhere else if they could. You don't have to set the red alert, have the sirens blazing and tell everyone to, leave all at once. You can, inform people who are going to be in the higher water areas that maybe you should get the hell out, or think about, leaving for a few days. But no, they said that people should just ride it out and that it wasn't going to be a big deal. So there's big, controversy there as to whether or not the mayor of Houston, handled that situation properly. In my point of view, he did not. Well, so again, President Trump has been doing a perfectly fine job handling this situation. The federal government has been doing a perfectly fine job handling the situation. The state of Texas itself has been doing a great job really coming together, again, as a community, working with state, local, and federal, officials to really pull together a really top-notch relief effort and rescue effort that has been, just really doing a great job of saving lives and, restoring some sort of a, not normal life to anybody, but, at least, getting them out of direct harm's way. And, it's really, again, been amazing to see people coming together. You've seen, again, pictures and videos of people of all races, colors, and creed coming together and helping out their fellow man. So because of the fact that there's been no major missteps in the handling of Hurricane Harvey, the media has been really scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to do anything they can and exposing themselves as the, disgusting, biased left-wing hacks that they are. In the process, they've been doing anything that they can to try to undermine the president in the wake of this disaster and absolutely capitalizing on this horrifying event to try to push a political agenda. Truly disgusting. And one of the great highlights of this is from the Daily Wire. Apparently, Melania Trump decided to wear high heels. Go figure. It's not like, she's like a former model or anything like that. So total shocker that she would want to wear high heels. But apparently, President Trump and Melania were going to be on their way to I believe, Austin, Texas, or I forget what exact area of Texas they were going to, not Houston, but they were going to Texas to sort of, survey some of the damage from Hurricane Harvey, meet with some of the local communities, and be a part, in some degree, of the relief effort and sort of help to spearhead the relief effort. Well, on their way to go to Air Force One to get on the plane, somebody snapped a pic of Melania Trump walking to the plane in, God forbid, high heels or stilettos, I guess. I don't know what the heck the difference is there. But, yes, Melania Trump, again, a former model, was walking in high heels to get onto the plane. And that, of course, threw the left into a hissy fit, and a sort of illustration of this is, again, from the Daily Wire. Meet the Vogue, and I hope you're ready for this, meet the Vogue writer who ripped Melania Trump's appearance during Hurricane Harvey relief effort. And I mean, just take a look. You know, I'm not trying to be too harsh here or anything, but I don't think this particular person has any room to be making fun of anybody's appearance. I mean, my God, I didn't think the new remake of It, you know, with Pennywise the Clown was coming out until September 8th, but apparently Pennywise came early to be a contributing editor at Teen Vogue. But hey, you know, if this lady, for whatever reason, you know, God forbid, loses her job here at Teen Vogue, I'm sure she's very important there. She could always, you know, fill in for Ronald McDonald at the local McDonald's, or you know, I know they got rid of the the elephants in the circus or whatever, but I mean, this person looks like she could fill multiple roles at the circus. So I mean, she's got work, you know, she'll be just fine. Don't you worry about this wonderful person right here. But this lady decided, I'm assuming she's a lady, I don't know, this person decided to this you know, dancing clown decided to make fun of Melania Trump, or rather to feign moral outrage at the fact that Melania Trump was wearing high heels. Vogue magazine contributing editor Lynn Yeager. Quote, "Well, the nation is riveted by images of thousands of Texans waiting with their possessions, their pets, their kids in chest-high water, desperately seeking refuge. Well, a government official recommended that those who insist on sheltering in place write their names and social security numbers on their arms. Melania Trump is heading to visit them in footwear that is a challenge to walk in on dry land," she continued. Whoa! Talk about the feigned moral outrage. So, I mean, this is what you got. This is what the media has stooped down to, and she begrudgingly, in that article, did admit that, yes, Melania Trump did change shoes when she got onto the plane. Yes, she only walked to the plane in the high heels, or stilettos, whatever the heck you want to call them. Then she changed into sneakers. She wasn't actually walking around in, you know, a hurricane disaster area in high heels. I mean, my God, people. But hey, you know, even if she was, I mean, this is just the thing. Like, this woman thinks that America, you know, just average people, I suppose, or whoever she's catering to, and probably the people that she's catering to would be absolutely outraged by something like this. But the fact of the matter is, the average American, and most definitely the average Texan, doesn't give two craps. They don't care about what Melania's shoes are. What they care about is an effective and efficient response to the disaster that they are facing, which is what they're absolutely getting from President Trump. So this here just highlights the insanity and the sort of pettiness of the left, and apparently they haven't realized, and that's okay with me, because I don't get sick of winning, that this is the kind of crap. This is the kind of crap that made Donald Trump win. So if you want Donald Trump for 8 years, please, by all means, keep making fun of Melania's shoes. And that wasn't all. So the media, you know, when they finally, you know, stopped chirping about Melania Trump's shoes, they decided to move on to the next thing that, well, you know, Donald Trump, he's just evil. That guy, he's just so mean. I mean, my goodness, just look at him. He's trying to say, well, look at the way he's handling this situation. He's not handling this situation. He's not showing the proper amount of empathy. Why, if Barack Obama was in this situation, he would, in reality, not even show up, because that's what he does in disasters like this. But no, he would go there, and he would be with his superhuman strength lifting, you know, children from the depths of certain doom, and, you know, he would be up there, you know, speaking with just teary-eyed grandeur in front of masses of just fawning Texans. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Like, these people are crazy, and they truly are sick, and they're trying to come out and say that President Donald Trump lacks empathy or some such nonsense because no one knows. I mean, they just make this kind of crap up. And, you know, President Trump, he's the guy. He's 70 years old. He's not going to change. If, you know, sort of his mannerisms, the way he acts, the way he is, sort of really gets to you, then I'm sorry, but it's just going to be a long 8 years. I don't think, I certainly didn't. I don't think most normal people saw anything that President Trump has done in his handling of this situation and thought, oh, that guy just lacks empathy. Especially when you look at the fact that President Trump just recently donated is planning on donating $1 million of his own money to the Hurricane Harvey disaster relief. So yeah, not you know, but of course that probably just that wasn't enough. You know, it wasn't you know, every last penny that he owns or something like that, or it's not going to go to the right you know, the right place to donate. I mean, it's just you really, when it comes to President Trump, there is nothing that he can do that would be good. There's nothing that they're going to give him praise for, because their goal, their obsession is to undermine this president in any way, shape, or form, and at any cost, truly, even if that means what is left of their credibility. and that's you know, sort of the media saying Trump lacks empathy. You know, these insane people complaining about Melania's shoes. That, you know, that shows the sort of the level of you know, to a degree, the level of degradation and just the just absolutely petty nature of the media, especially when it comes to covering Trump. But it actually did get worse, believe it or not. And two examples of this are, one, in a cartoon that Politico released that shows a Texan being rescued by the government, by the Coast Guard or something. And this guy's getting, you know, hauled up in the little bucket, and he's sitting there saying, you know, angels sent by God. And, you know, then the Coast Guard guy says, oh, well, no, actually, we're the Coast Guard, you know, sent by the U.S. government. And the idea here is two-pronged. You know, it's that, one, that conservatives and Texans are just, you know, just stupid, and they believe in this crazy idea that God is going to, or Jesus himself, come down and actually physically, you know, lift them from the floodwaters. When in fact, most religious people believe that it is sort of God that can act through people to help them. So that, you know, concept itself is just ludicrous. But then, you know, it's also saying that the people in Texas, you know, because they have the idea of, you know, secession, actually, in Texas, seceding from the Union, becoming their own independent state. You know, because of that idea, they think that Texans don't think that the government, that their pooled resources should be used by the government to actually help them out, which is ridiculous, because the vast majority of the people actually saving other Texans are other Texans who are, you know, state and local, that, you know, obviously are funded by state and local taxes. So it's an absurd concept, and it really is, you know, just a very cruel, you know, cartoon, and just really goes to show sort of just low level of understanding that people have when it comes to, you know, people that they don't understand. I mean, you know, you're talking about people who truly live in the sort of DC elitist coastal bubble, and they see anybody else that, you know, they consider flyover country, they see them as just useless rednecks that are bitter clingers worshiping God and their guns, that just are too stupid to understand how great government is. And it's just not true, and it's truly insulting. And whoever made that cartoon should absolutely be ashamed of himself. But not quite as ashamed, I must say, as Charlie Hebdo. And that, if you don't know, is the French sort of, I don't know, which I guess they're kind of like a Mad magazine, I guess you could say, but even worse, you could say, but even worse, way more provocative and insulting. They famously, I guess you could say infamously, got shot up, unfortunately, by a bunch of Islamists and jihadists after they had the gall and the temerity to draw a picture of Muhammad and paint him in a not so favorable light. They wound up paying for that, very dearly. They again got, many of them got murdered by some radical Islamists. And of course, obviously no one deserves anything like that. I mean, it's just, people can be as horrendous and despicable as they want, unless they actually actively harm somebody else in their person or their possessions. I don't think that they deserve to have any sort of violent action or any action whatsoever taken upon them. People have the right to be as repulsive as they possibly want, until it actually undermines somebody else's freedoms. So surely they have the right to publish what they did, but it was truly disgusting. So Charlie Hebdo decided to put forward a illustration of a bunch of Nazi flags floating up, just barely floating in the flood waters, presumably of Texas. And then you see a bunch of white hands in the Nazi salute throwing their hands up, and you even see 1 foot, obviously saying that one of the guys is dead. So what you have here is an illustration of clearly a bunch of, racist Texas Nazis being, swept up by the flood and hailing Hitler as they, go the way of the Titanic. Truly despicable stuff. Truly despicable stuff. And one of the most ironic things about this is that one of the areas that got hit the hardest is Houston, Texas. And if you look demographically, Houston, Texas is actually one of the most diverse cities in the entire United States. It is overwhelmingly diverse, and it is, by the way, run by Democrats. So, I mean, this idea that, Texas is just overrun by a bunch of, white KKK-loving Nazi sympathizers, or just literal Nazis, is truly absurd and truly insulting on so many levels. But it just shows the wild disconnect or the complete malicious, willful intent to absolutely, distort the facts or just basically be as disgusting of a human being as humanly possible. Either way, it shows the truly low level that many of the people on the far left have sunk to, and it is quite sad, I must say. But the most probably despicable display of dastardliness must come from Linda Sarsour. This story comes from the Daily Wire. Linda Sarsour, if you don't know, is the lovely sort of radical Islamist supporting lady who was sort of the organizer, I believe, of the Women's March. That was basically the anti-Trump march, where she was passing out hijabs to women and saying how great Sharia law was. So that's just how wonderful this person is. She also has family who are convicted terrorists who are now in Israel, again convicted of terrorism. So this is a woman who is just absolutely a lovely lady who is just the epitome of which you would want a decent human being to be. So of course she is sort of wholeheartedly embraced by the far radical left, and she sort of comes out with constant displays of sort of vile despicable behavior. Things like calling for a jihad against President Trump and his administration. Oh, but she didn't really mean that kind of jihad, right? And now she is actually putting up a fake Hurricane Harvey relief fund to get money for her political action committee that she is a part of. Truly disgusting. Shameless. Linda Sarsour solicits donations for Hurricane Harvey relief fund that's actually a leftist organizing group. Sarsour tweeted, "Donate to the #Harvey Hurricane Relief Fund." Oh, how nice, Linda Sarsour. How lovely. How wonderful of you. Well, the Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund is supported by the left-wing groups SEIU and MoveOn.org, aka George Soros, the man where if there is an evil deed going on in the world, you can guarantee the tentacles of George Soros have infiltrated it. I mean, truly absurd. The guy is a ubiquitously evil, malicious form of just truly vile and despicableness. I mean, just like the likes of which the universe has never seen. It's just truly amazing, among other groups. The Texas Organizing Project Education Fund's parent organization, the Texas Organizing Project, was an organization morphed into by the Association of Community Organizations for Reform Now, or ACORN. The radical group that was allegedly implicated in voter registration fraud, vote rigging, voter intimidation, and vote for pay schemes, all right up George Soros' alley. ACORN was disbanded in 2010, but at least 15 former ACORN employees were convicted of voter fraud-related activities, according to Discover the Networks. So not only is this supposed Hurricane Harvey Relief Fund money going to a political action committee, but it's going to a political action committee that is more than likely even more corrupt than the normal political action committee. So truly it just highlights the absolutely just despicable nature of obviously somebody like Linda Sarsour, but anybody who sort of is bedfellows with somebody like I'm sorry, that's a disturbing image, but somebody who is in line with someone like Linda Sarsour, or anybody who supports or endorses or even encourages the behavior of Linda Sarsour tacitly. All you people need to really take a hard look in the mirror at the sort of company that you're keeping, because let me tell you, she's not the kind of lady you want to take home to mom. That's all I'm going to say. She would probably want to genitally mutilate her. So what this event has done is, this is a tragic event, and it has shown the best and the worst of humanity, truly. Truly shown the best and the worst. It is a disaster. It's going to be an ongoing disaster. It's going to take people's lives. It's a situation. It's a situation that is going to be ongoing. It's obviously a disaster that is going to need ongoing efforts in terms of donations and volunteer work. So I obviously encourage you, if you can, actually physically be there to help, that's amazing. But, none of us can do everything. All of us can do something. So, if you feel so inclined to donate, obviously you should find a real organization. Don't go to a Linda Sarsour's organization, but, go somewhere that's actually going to put that money towards helping actual people involved in this tragedy. And again, so what this has done is it's highlighted the true human spirit, where people come together regardless of race, color, and creed, or political affiliation, and they help each other out. They help out their fellow man. And you've also seen the just absolute low life, people in the far left, across the spectrum, that are using this event, exploiting the victims, and just exploiting this tragic event to sort of increase the sort of division and polarization that we are already witnessing in this country, and to try to put forward a political agenda, including but not limited to absolutely undermining the president, which again is just disgusting in this type of a situation. This is a situation where people should be coming together, and people should be trying to have a positive influence, and not using this as some sort of a tool to advance a political agenda. Again, just truly disgusting to see. So, with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, leave a like, comment. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe, leave a like, comment, maybe share it with some of your compadres. If you would like to watch listen to the audio version of this, I will have that uploaded to SoundCloud. And you can follow me on Twitter, and I will have the links for all that in the description. So, with that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and may the Force be with you.
Trying to get out of town, that could be problematic with such difficulty with visibility and all the rest. Here's a.
You guys some Galveston beer.
Well, thank you. That will be nice for after we are done covering this. But there you go. So just friendly people here. Those that we've talked to have said, hey, we're getting out. And we have boarded up our place, and they've said goodbye to us on the way out of town. Then we've also seen people that are out here snapping pictures, and they say that they're just going to go ahead and.
Yeah.
Right.
You know
right.
what?
So
look, they've been through this so many times, and sometimes these storms in the beginning can look awfully identical. But we do hope that people heed the warnings. They are awfully kind to want to give love.
Harris.
But getting in a car is important. Go right ahead, Casey.